a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that beautiful.
Oh yeah, I got one. Put it in front of you. Okay. Like, because it has to be close to your mouth because they won't be able to hear you. Yep.
I keep falling into habits of the old. I got a lot of different sides of me you don't see. They talk about me quicker than they get to know. They don't know me. That's why I've been keeping all my battles low. Low key. I wanna let all of the skeletons out the closet. But instead I just keep them behind the door and I lock it. I keep locking. It's easy to fall into sin, but it's harder to stop it. I can't make a mistake, or they calling me a false prophet. I can't make a mistake. They judge me without asking what I've been. No wonder I still have these trusting issues. But why do I still have these lusting issues? I've been fighting demons, that's my issue. I've been so stuck in my ways, I've been trying not to let these demons intrude. I've been so stuck in my ways that I'm sitting still, I can't even continue. They judge me without asking what I've been. No wonder I still have these trusting issues. But why do I still have these lusting issues? I've been fighting demons, this might constantly walking the wrong direction as if I don't know what is right. I have been living my days in the dark, but in public I say I'm the light. So many thoughts that I battle inside of my head, you don't know what it's like. Imagine the cycle of waking up every day knowing that you gotta fight. I gotta fight. So stuck in my ways that it caused them to doubt me. Why do I care what they think about me? I don't care. Don't know if I trust everyone around me. I don't trust. It's hard to not push away everybody. I keep pushing. They judge me without asking what I've been through. No wonder I still have these trusting issues. But why do I still have these lusting issues? I've been fighting demons, that's my issue. I've been so stuck in my ways, I've been trying not to let these demons intrude. I've been so stuck in my ways that I'm sitting still, I can't even continue. They judge me without asking what I've been through. No wonder I still have these trusting issues. But why do I still have these lusting issues? I've been fighting demons, that's my issue. 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 I've been fighting demons, that's my issue.
Yep. Okay. Welcome to the We Us and Our show. I am your host, Michael Phelps from the We Us and Our group. As I always mentioned, We Us and Ours is a community group based off of information and communication and education. What we do, we educate our community as we are partner up with other grassroots organizations like the Black Alliance Association, Malcolm X Foundation, 360, all the other different organizations that are that stems with change in our community. As you can see, that we have some a special guest here from our. I'll let them explain. I'll let him explain who he is and where he come from. Before that, let everybody introduce themselves. That you can let them know where you're from and everything.
Hi, Jolly. Aaron Carlisle.
Terry Luis.
Okay, now where you from there, brother?
Well, I was born here. My family came from South Sudan.
Okay,
and,
okay.
They actually came to North Carolina as immigrants.
Okay.
And then they moved over to Nebraska, I think 2002 around when I was born.
Okay.
So, it's some history in my culture, my family.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, okay, that's good to hear. We're gonna dive into. We have a topic, so we're gonna get on this topic, and I'll let my the brother run.
Today's topic: what has the religious denominations of all types done to help our community prepare for the struggles of today compared to yesteryears, and helping us combat the suffering of moralistic standards?
Okay. What was the first? What was the first question there? While I look up, while I find this.
First question of the day is, what kind of effects do the neighborhood bars and liquor stores have on our communities located next to the houses of worship?
Can you give the topic one more time? That's really, I mean, that's
The topic?
Yeah, that topic. Read that topic again. They really need to hear that.
What have the religious denominations of all types done to help our community prepare for the struggles of today compared to yesteryears, and helping us combat the suffering of moralistic standards?
So anybody?
Yeah, I'm thinking. It's a good topic though. I like this.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
Considering when we talk about the first question about the neighborhood bars and liquor stores next to houses of worship, and how that affects our communities, and I guess the first thing that comes to mind is, should it matter whether there's a liquor store or bar next to a house of worship, or if it's not next to a house of worship? The question is the effect that those things have on our communities. So the location is not the problem. The effects of it is the problem.
Okay.
So when you talk about people who come and go from those places and why they come and go from those places, and how it affects families.
Yes.
Because really, when you talk about the community, you're talking about the families that make up the communities.
Yes.
So, when you think about, because sometimes when you think about like people who live close to these things, close to bars or close to liquor stores, or how often maybe they have a dad in the house or a mom in the house that's constantly making trips to the bar, or maybe going over there sitting all day. And the kids have nothing to eat. They have to fend for themselves. Maybe because, maybe when dad comes home from work, that's the first place he goes. They don't see him until the bar closes.
Right.
So when you think about those things, that's a negative effect.
Yes.
Anybody else?
As I was bringing the brothers along with me, I kind of give them an understanding of the scenario, and this really shows how the creators address the planners. I was telling the brother, I was raised in a Catholic school, and can I give a little back up last on it? My mother and father were born in Oklahoma, and I'm 79 now, so when we go back, that'll let you know about how much time. I was born in 1944. My father was in the service, and because he was raised in Oklahoma, and at that time they had cities and towns that were completely black, so they had strong educations back in those days then. And so he could read and write proficiently. So then when he went into the service, when they brought him into the service, they made him an E5, okay, because he could read.
Yeah.
And made him a staff sergeant, which put him in charge. And like I said, he was from Hennessy, Oklahoma. But what he did is that he told my mother to go up to Kansas, actually in Wichita, or not far from Kansas City, the capital. And that's where I was born, in Wichita, because she had an aunt that lived there, and he wanted her to be in that kind of atmosphere as opposed to Oklahoma. Kansas was still better than Oklahoma at that particular time. And so just by having that kind of experience, he said she had a brother that was older that moved to Oklahoma because the packing house, moved to Omaha because the packing houses and the railroads were coming here to flourish. And he had already established himself, so she came up here when I was 3 years old. I've been in Omaha, Nebraska since I was 3. And and because of Omaha and the way it's located, the house that he owned was right around the corner from the house I live in now. So the condensedness of it is an advantage to me, and the Catholic Church is an advantage to me because, and this is something I've really only come to, I tell you later, you're crazy. I've only really come to the realization within the last 4 or 5 years that being in that Catholic school was the same as being in a private school. He had to pay $254 a quarter for me to go to school back in those days. All right. And so that was like going to a private school. So,
well, can I not to interrupt you, but I would because there was a topic. I mean, there was a question that was asked. I know you going and you giving us history, but we want to stick with the question. I'm just want to go back to the question. What kind of effects do the neighborhood bars and liquor stores have on our communities located next to the house of worship? Now, with your experience as you've been here all these years, how has those liquor stores and those bars and next to the house of worship, how have you seen it affected our community and the people that reside in it?
No different than anywhere else across the country, because the liquor stores are there to keep us intoxicated. That's their purpose. We as descendants of slaves and still receiving some of those kinds of treatment now had so much kinds of malices that we had to deal with that our consumption of alcohol was medication as opposed to recreation. All right. And the highlight, particularly in Omaha, Nebraska, was the packing houses and the railroads. And to show how devastating the situation really was, is that in the packing houses, you had quite naturally a lunchtime at 12, but they had what they call spellouts, where they would let them go like 10 and at 2 to go get a drink. Because the conditions in the packing houses were atrocious. I mean, there would be the fighting was horrendous. Just because of that time and space, because blacks were in those kind of jobs and bringing that kind of money to home to send their kids to private schools in those days, that was definitely not looked upon by the traditional Eurocentric community. This is where your religious piece comes in, because we don't have any black religious kind of, definitely there's some today, like the Nation of Islam and other kind of smaller ones that are dealing with the ethnicity as black people. But the other kind of religions, the churches and all of those are still controlled by the European population. So there were very serious situations that's why the segregation was so much implanted, so that socialization would not spill off on them. They could have their cake and eat it too. They could get the money from the packing houses and live right and live out, in our case, out west, and do all the things they wanted to. And it wasn't until the latter part of the 50s where we ever were able to get into that kind of situation where we could get homes in their community.
Okay, let me read a comment out. One of the comments was my brother Enoch. He says the house of worship are for profits only. For profits only.
Profits.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say the effects that the bars and liquor stores have. They have and if the church, and the church don't mean the pastor or the building, it means the people. If the people don't have hope within themselves and have faith and within their belief, then the liquor stores and the bars is going to be where they're going to go reside and find their faith. As I would say, is that if a community or a church, the church meaning people, don't know whose they are to know who they are, anything is intoxicating to them. Anything that they do is going to be intoxicating, or they're going to be addictive, So they will go anywhere they can be addictive. They're gonna have addicted because we all have an addictive personality when it comes to dealing with issues. And the only way we're gonna deal with issues, we have to be addicted to something to overcome. And I just believe that if we're gonna deal with the church, we got to deal with the real church. That is the people. We can't blame it on one. We can't say it's just the pastor who sits on the pulpit. We got to blame it on the congregation as well, because they are the body. They are the church. And I think that's where the misconception comes at when we're talking about church.
I had something that came to mind. This is kind of dawned on me. We talked about the effects of the church, the house of worship, being next to bars and liquor stores. And my question is this. The real question is, why do people decide or choose to go to bars and liquor stores instead of the house of worship? Okay? They're both watering holes, if you want to, so to speak. Okay? You can go to a bar, or a liquor store and order yourself a drink or whatever, or buy a drink, whatever the case may be, right? Or, like so many like to say, you go into a church and certain people have different opinions of what they feel about pastors, or how they feel about how these houses of worship work. Okay,
this place is locked off for while we're here.
People are being manipulated. Okay, but alcohol does the same thing.
All right.
Alcohol manipulates the mind. Okay, but
it's also a depressant. It causes you.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So if alcohol manipulates the mind, but yet you choose that. You choose to numb the mind. You choose to dull your senses. Then you go and you sit in a church, sober-minded. Some, not all, but you sit in a church, sober-minded, and still allow yourself to be manipulated if you're not paying attention.
Okay,
So can you get drunk in both places?
Yes.
You can.
Okay, let me. I got some comments. I got some people give me some comments. Brother Enoch, he says the bars are intended to pacify the community. Black folks in the community focus more on partying and bullcrap rather than progress. The congregation are full of blind and lost people being led by a blind shepherd. The blind can't lead the blind. Then he says, and that was Brother Sippy. Enoch says Satan has corrupted most houses of worship. Hence, gay marriages in the church, pastors getting young girls pregnant, priests molesting boys, and the list goes on. You had something to say. What was you going to say, brother?
Oh yeah, I was saying alcohol is depressing, and I was going to say me and him always talk about the modern day church is kind of the den of thieves. I mean, you give your tithes every week. Where are those tithes going? I went to a church and the pastor didn't even live in the same state. He lived in another state and he's flying back and forth. So I'm like, wow, what is he doing on the side to make all this money? Just start thinking about it. And I was like, maybe 12 or 13. But those things just don't make no sense. What is he doing with the money we give him?
Okay, well, I have to go to the next one. Right. We got a list of ones to go. Yes.
Okay. Next question. What role can religious leaders play in keeping families together?
Anybody want to take a shot at that?
I'll put it out. Go ahead. No, you go.
I was raised in Catholicism, Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is the foundation of religion in America and basically across the world. When you look at the concept and you understand the intent, then like Sundays, arbitrarily they identified the Sunday as the day of worship. That was the first deception across the board. because your relationship with God is second to second, not week to week. So when you have a mechanism that's going to establish itself to operate on a Sunday, and its only intent is financial, it's never been spiritual. If it had been spiritual, then their ability to deal with the implementation of slavery into this country would have been to stop it. So the whole concept of religion as it applies to reality, and specifically as it applies to people with melanin, is absolutely ludicrous. And here again, like I said, I went to a Catholic school from nursery all the way through, so I'm very much aware of the full structure. My biggest letdown in life is when I told my father that I wanted to go to Creighton High School as opposed to Central or Tech, like here in Omaha. And he said, why? And I said, because I can get into a monastery easier if I'm in a Catholic school. And he looked at me and he said, no son of mine will be a priest. And that's the first time I ever gave the inkling of swelling up on my father. And I said, then why did you send me to a Catholic school? He said, for the discipline. All right? That regimentation, the Catholic Church is the foundation of religion in the world. Okay? Their whole intent has always been based upon making sure that any types of revenues or any types of exposure, this is where the liquor store comes in now. Catholic churches have to give the impression that they would be totally against having any kind of liquor anywhere around, period. All right? Because its intent is only to alter your mental and physical feeling. That's the only reason for alcohol, is to alter your perception or feelings.
I got a whole bunch of questions, comments. I don't want to get too far ahead because no comments won't make sense. So let me get these comments out. Brother Enoch said, for number 2, he said the pastors can't. And then he also come back and said religion has failed us. And then he said the intent is to control. Then my brother Mississippi said there's many false prophets out here, and it even says it in the Bible. And then Brother Carlisle said religious leaders in the black church need to repent of self-worship, and congregation needs to repent for worshiping a pastor. Then he said religious leaders in the black church need, no, that was speaking back for somebody else. I guess they going back and forth. So he said, then Brother Mississippi said, you spoke the truth, brother. Then Master Enoch said, but Satan has such a hold that is being indoctrinated in the fabric of the church. Go ahead.
I would like to respond to that. In order to be manipulated, it's like last week we talked about monsters.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to touch on that just a second. In particular, Dracula. Okay. In order for him to come in, you had to give him permission.
Yeah.
In order for somebody to have access to your mind, you must give them permission. But oftentimes, where the manipulation comes in, I've been in church for a long time, okay, and I've been in a lot of different churches, and I've been on both sides, and I've had a lot of trouble. I've had my trouble in churches as well, okay. And I'll say this: my mother told me something when I was young that always kind of stuck with me. And it's one of the things that kind of got me in trouble when I was in church. And that was, always know that you know. She always cautioned me against just accepting what people told me. She cautioned me to go do my own study. The problem that you run into when people are being manipulated in churches is because they don't study. They don't. They allow somebody to regurgitate to them, but they don't do any studying on their own. So therefore, lazy thinking promotes manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're a lazy thinker, then that means you wait for somebody to come to you. When you don't, and I tell people all the time, know it's a know a lie, even when it comes to your rights. Same thing. We can go all over the place with this. Even when it comes to your rights. If you don't know your rights, how are you going to know when they're being violated? So, in other words, you must study to show yourself approved, rightfully dividing the truth. So if you don't study, you don't even know how to ask questions. You know how to ask questions, and anybody can tell you anything, you're going to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
So when people talk to you about give money for this and give money for that because you have to, how do you know that's true if you haven't done any study?
Yes.
All right.
And so, therefore, you have to ask yourself, we like to blame pastors. We like to blame church houses. We like to call them pimps. But guess what? Why do the prostitutes keep coming back? And what I mean by that is that don't allow yourself to be prostituted out by doing for yourself, providing for yourself. Because if you don't know the truth, then you won't exercise the truth. If you don't study, how are you going to know? So anybody in a powerful position can encourage you to follow them and say, hey, follow me, I'm going the right way. And they'll lead you to a fire.
Mm-hmm. And not to cut you off, but I have to keep it because people are involved in this. Brother Enoch said, if you celebrate Christmas in your church, you have accepted and welcomed Satan in. Then he also said, blind following the blind. And then Brother Mississippi said, these holidays are man-made up. Paganism. Yeah. And then Brother Carlisle said, if many of our people are illiterate, how can they study? And then Mississippi said, I don't celebrate Christmas or Easter or Halloween. Okay, now I want to get into I want to speak on that. I think because we're not here to bash churches. We're not here to bash, because when we bash the church, we bashing our cousins, our aunties, our uncles, our fathers, our mothers, because that's the church. We got to remember that. That is the church, because when we bashing them directly. So what I want to do, I want to have us all have an understanding that in any organization, there's a thing called stakeholders. Everybody is a stakeholder. Whatever you invest in is what you're going to get out. And I always say, and I'm going to say this with love and compassion. Everybody has a choice, but you also have a choice to understand where people are at. That's important too. Because you can't have a choice, tell people to have a choice, but you got to also have understanding you have a choice to understand where people are at. That's how we solve our natural crisis. That's how we deal with our issues in our community, by understanding where everybody's at and where they're going and how they've been misled and misguided. Now, I have mentioned to you, remember we were sitting having a conversation the other day, we was talking, I said pedophile. And one of our family members got upset when I used the word pedophile. And the reason why I use pedophile in the essence that I use it at, anybody who can take advantage of someone who's immature, young-minded, and that's in your spiritual growth. If you're not educated in your spiritual growth, and you got somebody who's called himself educated, and they use that as a force to take something from you, to rob you, and to steal from you, and to kill your spirit, that is pedophile.
That's a pedophile.
That's a pedophile, even if it's not even physically active upon you. That is a pedophilia on someone. Yeah. That is committing adultery against God. Right. That is fornicating against the word. So we got to remember, we got to be careful when we talk about subject matters, and we got to make sure we get everybody to understand what we're talking about and why we're talking about this. Mm-hmm. This is not to assault the church, because if we assault the church, we're assaulting our parents, we're assaulting our cousins, we're assaulting our family, we're assaulting our community.
My mom's actually a pastor. She got ordained last year.
But there's only one difficulty in that. And that is that if you're wrong, you're wrong.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And when we start talking about we as people of hue in America, our ability to receive any kind of information, whether it be positive, negative, or wrong, or right, or prefabricated, or whatever, has only been within the last 150 years, tops. Okay, you can't make sense out of a nonsensical situation.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about spirituality, there's only one mechanism that cannot be repudiated by absolutely nobody, nowhere on this planet, and that is the Ten Commandments. Got into that a little bit last week, but I got into it and I didn't feel like it hit, so I did a little more research on it. The Ten Commandments is the only documentation that has been, without any question, accepted by any civilization. Anybody want to differ at that point?
I'm listening.
Okay. That is information that throughout all time and all methods of spirituality have been accepted as the foundation and the rules of order for everyone. Anything else has been augmented off of that. Mm-hmm. I brought up the part about you talk about Sundays. It says keep holy the Lord's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Spirituality on a man's name jumped off that and said that means on Sundays. No, that means keep holy the Lord's Day. Every day is the Lord's Day. Mm-hmm. You keep holy 24/7. Not just on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Humanity, or those who are devilish in thought but spiritual and external, use it as a personal mechanism or a financial mechanism. They don't use it for spiritual guidance or direction. That's where particularly us are so intimidated, because of the period of time that we were in slavery, being treated as animals, and in some cases less than animals. And even today, I go back to the part about the women in households and the number of men in prison. Dr. Umar Johnson. Dr. Umar Johnson came out with a piece about 5 or 6 months ago. It's dead on that emphasis about that kind of attitude. We can't use our educated understanding of spirituality to direct people in a righteous direction, because it's misinformation. We don't have that ability.
Okay, not to cut you off again. I got people chiming in again. Brother Master Enoch said, we have to bash all those that sin against God. He said, can't put family, friends, or your mate before God. And then Brother Mississippi said, why go to church if you're going to go back out to the world and repent the same sin? You can't play with God like that. Then he said, the whole purpose of the church is to unite, congregate, and worship. And to clean your soul and pray without intentions. There are some true pastors and true believers out here, but the only way, I gotta open it up. The only way you can know is to unless you know, and unless you know God, and that is correct. You know me, like I said, that we don't bash. We're not bashing the church, because the church is all of us. We are the church. We make up the church. We are the church. If 2 or 3 gather in my name, shall he be in the midst. That means that we are the church. That means that lets us know who is the church. So if we condemning one, then we condemn them all. Right. Because what we have to condemn the ones who are actually violating the rules that God has set forth. Because he gave his law, statutes, and commandments for us all to live off of. And with those laws, statutes, and commandments, it gives us the right to govern ourselves accordingly. So therefore, none of us So there shouldn't be no malice or any type of murder or anything amongst us, because if we use the first principles of what the commandments is, love thy God with all thy heart and love thy neighbor, that's going to oversee all the other stuff, because that's going to cover all that thing. Because if I love you and you as much as I say I do, I'm not going to cover your wife. I'm not going to blaspheme against you. I'm not going to rob you. I'm not going to murder you. That's the key. That's the problem that I think that it's not being drove hard on as a group. But we want to go to the next one. Because I don't want, because we got so many we got to go through.
Number 3. Could the teacher of servitude be more rewarding, or could the teaching of servitude be more rewarding for our communities?
Servitude.
Yeah, servitude, like, is that like solitude by yourself? Serving. Okay.
Serving one another.
Serving one another. So, and of course, I mean, that is the whole premise behind the statement what you just said, is that if we would be of a mindset of serving one another instead of competing against one another, not seeing myself as better than you, but seeing myself as equal to you.
Exactly. As we all sit and we equal.
As we all sit, we're equal, right? We all have a voice. But when we don't treat each other as if we have, as if we don't love each other the way we should, and treat each other on that level of being equal.
Yes.
Saying that your needs are no less than my needs.
Right.
But if you would address my needs and I would address your needs, I'm serving you and you're serving me. Guess what? We both get served.
We both get served.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And hold that. And let me read this one out, because I don't want to get too far. Because the comments. The reason why I have to read these comments out because Brother Enoch said the Bible says there are many that are will call my name, but yet they know me not. And that's one of the things. But when we talking about serving one another, that is the act of kindness towards one another, and that is the act of understanding where everybody's at. Because I can't serve you if I don't think that you're on my level or you where I'm at. Only way I'm gonna still be able to serve you, I have to understand. Okay, you might not be where I'm at. I'm gonna help you get where I'm at. That means I'm gonna reach down. I'm not gonna let no soldier behind.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That is the key. Now everybody's not gonna accept it, because like I said, everybody's not willing to accept the responsibility to hold themselves accountable. But what me and my cousin was talking about one day, we was talking about fishing. Everybody, you can't use the same bait to catch people when you're going fishing.
Right.
Sometimes you got to chum them to get them in. And once you throw out there, and chumming is you throw stuff out in the water and lures the fish in, and then you throw your hook out there. And then once the fish comes eating on that stuff, eventually they're gonna eat that. They're gonna eat what's on that hook, and then you're able to catch them and bring them into the fold. And then once you get them in the fold, now you have control over. You have some type of influence on them.
Exactly.
That's what we have to learn. We have to be patient and learn that, because fishing is a patient sport. It's not a sport that you can just go and say, I'm going to catch and eat today. You know what I mean?
But you have to chum with a sense of integrity.
Yes. Compassion too.
Chum with a sense of ethics.
With no ulterior motive.
With no ulterior motive.
Yes. Yes.
You see, it's like that, because that is the very thing that destroys families.
Yes. Yes.
That destroys marriages. Lack of trust.
Yes.
Okay, where the trust is destroyed, where that foundation of trust is destroyed, you can't build a house on that.
Nothing.
You can't build anything on that, because because now everybody gonna feel like, I gotta look out for myself. I can't trust you to look out for me. I gotta look out for me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when you feel like when you get put in that position, now you're on the defense.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I can't treat you as a brother because I always gotta watch and see if you're trying to get me.
You're in survival mode.
Okay, you're right. You're trying to hustle me. You're trying to get me.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's our community right there.
Yeah.
Our community thinks like that.
And hold your thought. I want you to say this after this one. Enoch said, "You have to leave some behind, as God had flood. So should we rid the flock of the demons." But what he forgot to mention, when he was saying that, he forgot one key part of that. God did, not you. We don't have a heaven or hell to put nobody in.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to be careful when we say we got to, because you don't know who you're entertaining.
Exactly.
So we can look at anybody and say they just on the wrong path. If we all sat here and judged David, of the king of Israel, and we watched all the behaviors that he did at that moment, all of us would say he would not be able to go into heaven.
Exactly. It's
just by our own intuition. We ain't going off what he did afterward. We're going off what we see from our own perspective. Yes. But reality is, God knew his heart, knew something greater than him. Even though David never repented after he killed that man, after he was called out on it. He never just came forth and felt guilt and say, "Oh, I did something wrong." He never did that. He had to be called out on it. Then that's when the repentance fell upon him. But God still knew his heart, because at least after he did it, he didn't blame nobody else for why he did it. He accepted his responsibility and accountability of what he had done. Everybody's not the way, but we don't know who is right and who's wrong. Right. So we got to be careful when we try to utilize God's word in the essence of trying to correct other people, because I was just reading the story about, let he without sin cast the first stone. Now the lady, when the men brought her forth in the middle in the courtyard, they wanted to stone her because she was a prostitute.
Yeah.
She was caught in adultery, and the men wanted to stone her. So, but they said when they wanted to trick Joshua, so what they did, they brought her forth, and then they was trying to trick him up because they wanted him to do something different. But all he did was sat there and drew in the sand. Now, everybody don't know what he could have been doing why he was just drawing the sand. He probably was drawing all their names out there, because who she was committing adultery with. Maybe all the men that was bringing her forth. You know what I mean? Everybody don't know, because guess what I'm saying? You don't know. So when he said what he said, let he without sin cast the first stone, no one had everybody started to look at self and say, "Oh man, he must know I dibbled in the playground."
Exactly.
So they start throwing their rocks and walked off. This is because people look good on the outside trying to play like they're innocent, but deep down inside, behind the scene, God knows who you are.
They know their heart.
So we have to be careful, because all of us are sin. All of us are not sinless. Mm. So that's why I say let's be careful when we throw these words out there, because it's important. We have to be cognizant on where we at and where we came from, because none of us was perfect beings.
Exactly. I mean,
none of
in our mind every day.
Well, I know where he was coming from. I'm just
I think it's a matter of when you know
right from wrong.
Doing right from wrong, and sometimes you have to know when to separate yourself.
Yes.
You got to know when to distance yourself. You know, sometimes everybody's not healthy to hang around.
No, they're not.
Everybody's healthy to kick it with. So you got to know when to separate yourself. If you're going one way, they're going the other. How can two walk together unless they agree? Mm-hmm. That's where he was coming from. And so that's so very important, because when you're trying to get somewhere, you have to assess all the people who are around you, and you have to determine who's who, and to see who's helping you get to where you're going and who's holding you back from getting where you're trying to go. And sometimes you got to cut the line. That's not passing judgment. That's taking accountability. That's taking a stand. That's setting a standard for yourself. And say, wait a minute, this is where I'm going, and you're not helping me get there. We got to go our separate ways, right?
Yes,
now.
I agree.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
It's not judging anybody.
No, that is not judging. And I'm glad you clarified that up. Let me read this one on me. Brother Mississippi said, we as a black nation are God in the eyes of God, but we are not himself. If we all step outside at the same time and pray, we can move mountains. That's how spirituality powerful we are. Then Brother Enoch said, no, it's called excommunication. We're not talking about David. We're talking about the parasites infecting the minds of the people. Then he said, we are doomed. He said, we are doomed. He said, it's no different than keeping your kids away from bad association. All the deception, Sippy said, all the deception that goes on in the world goes to show you the eyes, mind, and spirit goes hand in hand combined.
Mm-hmm.
You guys understand?
There are only 10 rules that you have to follow, and those are already handed down by the Creator. Every basic religion that it has any closeness to reality fosters those 10. There may be some religions that come in and don't talk about the 10 Commandments, but those who have to be recognized as informational sources, everything they do is guided by those 10 Commandments. Those 10 Commandments take care of everything that you could possibly run into and how you should deal with it. Our problem is, because of the period of time that we spent as slaves, that means you had no ability at all to make no decisions about nothing. Penalty of death could come from you looking at somebody, no less trying to tell them what to do about you. All right? We can't discuss these kinds of topics to a general population because those who aren't cognizant and understand that those 10 commandments are the foundation of which is minuscule would come up with different kinds of questions because it's clear on what you're supposed to do in those 10. We as slaves in this country, and I use that in somewhat present time, we're supposed to be free, but that period of time we're supposed to have been free, 1865, is that what it was? All right, that ain't no time. So we just now really getting to the point where we think we can say something and get away with it. No less to think that what we know or what we have experienced is any kind of validation on how we should go from this point because we all still tiptoeing through what we got to get through because we not sure. The basic 10 commandments is all there is that anyone has to follow according to God's words. Anybody wants to repudiate that? There ain't a minister, there's no minister that has a church that will say that that is an incorrect statement. There may be some jacklegs, you know what that term means?
Like some add-ons or
jacklegs means people that ain't got a church to run around and try to preach anyway. Okay, they might try to do it, but I said this before. The difference between a pimp and a preacher is minuscule. Minuscule. And I've said that in churches, and I've said that in group meetings, and no one can really get up in front of me. We are only 1865. We're only a little bit out of 100 years of thinking that we can get up and say what we want to say. Prior to that, we couldn't even talk. You get your head cut off, you get your penis cut off, you get your breast cut off. All right. So when we get into the point where we talk about passing out information to the masses of the people need to understand where they are in the first place. When we talk about liquor stores are in every black community in less than what is perceived as walking distance.
Yeah. And let me read these. Yeah, I'm gonna read these comments. Then you can go to the next. Brother Enoch said, "You can't serve two masters." And then he said, "Religion is man-made." There were then he said there were actually 42 negative confessions. Um, Brother Mississippi said the Bible actually was rewritten by a gay individual. So images what the original Bible said. The power to be wrote is so we can believe what they want us to believe. What they want us to believe, lies and deceptions.
There is no us.
And then I guess agree with him. Correct. And I think what they a lot of people. I don't know if they did. I don't know if a lot of us actually did a lot of research on King James. I think a lot of us thought that King James was a white man that was a homosexual. I don't. I would tell you this before because I can't tell you. I would say this. I got some information. I'm gonna send that to y'all, but y'all need to read that King James was a Moor. He was a black man, and he ran 3 European countries at the same time. That was unheard of, unprecedented at that time. He won Portland, Spain, and England at the same time. The Catholic Church was after him. They wanted to kill him. I mean, they tried to kill him because he had the biggest library there was. And when he died, that's when they went around on a crusade, smearing his name, saying that he was gay, homosexual, slept with his mother, and all these things. If you don't know these things, you probably want to go look it up. And I'm telling you this for a reason, is because he wanted our people to know whose we are, to know who we are. And a lot of the doctrine that we're reading are tablets of historical DNA, telling us about whose we are as within our DNA footprint. And it's telling us, and whoever say it's the word, then we get into a subject matter that we might all have to sit down and round table and have, because all that is recorded action steps of individual who failed to do what was right, and then they told the stories of what happened, what was the repercussion behind the actions.
The reason why the Creator put down the 10 Commandments, and there is no mechanism on this particular planet, and I'm sure ain't on no other planet, that will repudiate the substance and the input of the 10 Commandments. The reason why those 10 Commandments were implemented, because man's inhumanity to man will always be constant. I don't know whether you call yourself a preacher or a pimp or whatever. The only laws that we are required to follow, if we believe in a spirit other than ourselves, are the 10 Commandments. Everything else is nonsensical, makes no sense at all. The 10 Commandments make pure, unquestionable answers to all your questions. Well, Europeans.
Let me read this one. The brother said King James also wrote the book of demonology, and then Sippy said that's why it's contradicted itself. And then Master Enoch said he was of Satan's court, and I would say that is the subject, brother. We're gonna have a conversation. You know, man, I don't want to have this debate on this.
What's the debate?
No, it's me and my brother. We're gonna have a debate.
He asked the question, and you.
No, you know, he made a statement. Yeah, he said he was of Satan's court.
He was of Satan's court.
King James.
Let's take this off subject.
Yeah.
We're
gonna move to the next subject. Hold on, we're gonna move to the next subject. Let's move to the next subject.
What could the churches do to influence change within our families and communities?
Shut down.
Well, we just finished saying earlier that the people make up the church.
No, they don't.
So, well, that's your opinion.
No, they don't.
Okay. So anyway, well, the people make up the church.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So therefore, if there's no place for people to come and to congregate and to encourage and uplift one another, which is what should be going on. Not saying that that's what always goes on, but that's what should be going on. Just like people,
Why should it be going
I'll
on?
interrupt you right on. Give me a minute. Thanks, please. Give me a second. What I'm saying is that it's no different from people who go to parties. When they go to parties, they're all there doing the same thing, having a good time
every weekend,
and that's what they do every weekend. So what's the difference when coming together for something positive and uplifting one another, encouraging one another, and sharing with one another, and pouring into each other's families.
right?
I think that's a positive thing.
And that's what I like about the
That's
church.
That's not a negative thing. That's a very positive thing.
Exactly.
Because we go to bars and sit there and drink and fight and kill and sleep with each other's wives
and go back faithfully
and do it faithfully. So
it becomes our belief. Because every day we believe that we got to go back to the next spot. It's the same spot that your buddy just got murdered at.
Yep.
The same spot that you just seen a girl get drugged.
Yep.
The same spot that you just seen someone pulled a knife on somebody. The same spot you seen people calling each other out their name, cussing at each other. You go back to that faithfully, and it becomes your faith. It becomes your belief.
So how
That's state church.
That's
state church.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's just like how can so the question?
No, it's not.
So the question is, what could the churches do to influence change within the families and communities?
Shut down.
Okay,
I
so
think they can actually put an emphasis on the family part.
Shut down.
Yes.
Like we go to church, and I mean, I remember going to church. All we do is read the Bible, and we go over certain parts. We don't even go over every single part of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't never learn about revelations or certain things, but it's always just talking about God and your relationship with God. But what about your relationship with your family, your siblings, your mother, your brother? When a lot of those people come from broken homes, and one thing I noticed is a lot of people that are in church are traumatized people. They're looking for a hope. Basically, that's what the church brings to them.
Yeah.
And you don't really receive that hope through other people, or not other people, but through the church. You receive that through yourself and actually having that bondage with people who can help you receive, be yourself.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's in one of the subject. That's in one of the titles. What you just said, it's in that, because that is important information that I think when we talk about the church, the influence of what it can do, what that thing is saying, that's the influence that church should have, and within that church has mothers, it has fathers, it has cousins, has older brothers, sisters, young sisters, big cousins, little cousins, uncles, aunts.
Yeah.
Those are the factor that can implement change within the family dynamics. Because if the families is broken, why do you think the churches are broken?
Exactly.
Well,
because it spills into the congregation, because the congregation is broken within its. Because Mary said, you cannot go to my house and clean it up when your house is out of order. You know what I mean? Right. Your house is full of dirt, but you want to come over here and try to act like holier than thou. You know what I mean?
So when you look at it, Jesus was the example of how we ought to treat one another. That's why he said, let he who is greatest among you be your servant. Meaning, he taught us how we ought to serve, not to be served.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So to have a relationship with God, the better relationship that you have with God was to teach you how to have a relationship with your brother, how to have a relationship with your sister, how to have a relationship with your mother, because it was modeled on how we ought to have these relationships. So in reality, the issue is not so much a matter of not being taught. It's a lack of application.
It's a lack of false information.
Okay, explain that false information. I just want to, because I want to.
We are trying to use present day mechanisms to be a guidelines for people to get some education. The reason they're ignorant is because of those pre-existing structures that we're trying to use to give them some information.
And what
The
structure is
Ten
that?
Commandments answers every question that you could possibly have as it applies to your relationship with the Creator.
But we established that when we said the greatest two laws of the Ten Commandments. What?
What do you mean, the greatest two?
What was the greatest two commandments?
They're all 10. There are 10 of them.
No. What was the greatest two? Love thy God with all thy heart and love thy neighbor.
Where did they say that at? Where's that at? Is that the number 11?
That wasn't in there?
Which one says that?
So neither one of them was in there.
First time the Lord thy God, there shall have no strange gods before me.
Mm-hmm.
Second, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain.
Mm-hmm.
Third, remember thy keep holy the Lord.
Loving God first.
Fourth, honor thy father and thy mother.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth, thou shalt not kill. Sixth, thou shalt not commit adultery. Seventh, thou shalt not steal. Eighth, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor's wife. 10th, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods.
Okay.
So you notice that the first ones talk about our relationship with God first,
Yes.
and then our relationship.
That's why the Creator
Then-
hands
then-
down. Right.
and then our relationship with each other.
Right.
So if our relationship with God
Right.
is what it should
Love.
be, then our relationship with each other should reflect that.
No, you can't figure that if you keep the first five, the other five won't come in automatically. It takes you long enough as an individual. Most of us don't get through it in our own lifetime. That's why we still have a hell. The first five are as important as the last five. That's why they are the 10 commandments.
Not saying they're not important.
They all are
They
important.
are equally important.
There's
But-
an order.
But if people really instituted love in their hearts towards God and towards their brothers and sisters, all the other commandments, all of them will resemble what that love is.
The only
Am I
reason,
right?
no, because the only reason why we as a conscience talk about that came to reality in 1865. What happened in 1865?
No, tell-
Slaves were freed, right?
What?
Slaves were freed in
Free.
1865.
That's when we became free. 1865.
And we wasn't
That
free
means that
then.
we've been 100 and what?
About 140.
90 some,
Mhm.
almost 200 years
Yeah.
that we've been able to freely follow the 10 Commandments. All right? That means that we have a generation and a half out of having no consciousness about what we're talking about, no less to implement it today.
Okay, well, brother Mississippi said that's a sign of no journey to a vision where you party every weekend. When you talk of God every day, it's a conversation where you build a spiritual relationship. It's just like us talking to each other, like we're talking right now.
That's one of our biggest faults as a people.
What's that?
We have just enough knowledge to get ourselves in trouble.
Explain.
Taking in information, thinking that you are comprehending it in its proper context, thinking that you automatically have the ability to implement it in the mechanism that's going to not only benefit you, but your immediate surroundings, and also with the assurance that if any mechanism comes in and prohibits you from implementing God's word, you're going to be able to handle that. We haven't been able to even come to that consciousness. We can't do that now. We can't go out here and in these streets right now and do God's work.
Why not?
Because these people still come up and knock you in your head.
Well,
Because they got a job to do, and that is to keep you in line. It ain't a spiritual job.
who you talking about them? You talking about the system, or you talking?
I'm talking about the system.
Or you talking about our people?
Our people are slaves. I'm talking about
Well, you got to make a distinction so we know who you talking about. Because when you
I'm
talking
talking
in
about
general,
the European power base, of which
Yeah.
is not in control factor in America, is implemented in Europe, which causes it to be universal. All right? Europeans don't have any problem at all knowing on how to deal with us.
well, let us go back to that because I want to challenge that. And the reason why I want to challenge that is because when you use the word "we can't," and we keep having this conversation about the word "can't," I don't want our youth that's watching thinking that we can't do nothing.
They get their fathers out of prison.
Look, how old are you, brother?
21.
21. How old are you, brother? 20.
Get
That's
their,
our.
get their fathers out of prison.
These are our young generations.
Get their fathers out of prison.
Well, we can't get everyone out of prison because half of them need to be there.
No, why?
Well, they committed crimes. I mean,
man,
some
of them are just not. Some of them are not. Some of them. Remember, you said we have to leave some people behind. No. Some of them have to be left because some of them are animal. Some of them are barbaric and animalistic. That they're cannibalism of them of their community. That's why that's why we were supposed to patrol our community and got rid of the cannibals that was in our community that was preying on our own or the weak in the community. That's what the gangs and stuff was supposed to be about. Stopping those who was out there cannibalizing our own people. Their own people. You cannot free every last one of them. I'm not saying a lot of them that's in there that shouldn't be free. There's a lot of them in there that need to be free because they are the warriors. But then there's a lot of them in there who are victims of their own oppression. They oppress themselves by accepting and allowing Satan inside because they have either mental, psychological, chemical imbalance. Mm-hmm. So you cannot allow all of them out and think that you're gonna walk around safe.
If I don't have them out, I still want them in my therapeutic system, not in our oppressor's therapeutic system.
And what do you got? What system do you have to put them in?
Now that's asking the question. We ain't in no shape right now to be talking about anything else because we ain't got enough control to handle our own situation. Ain't no other nation got the problems that we got. You don't hear about no Asians that come to America worrying about the number of black males that go to.
Well, you talking about a culture that have a landmass that they can go to with that has a flag that has all that and have a culture that have a language.
Right.
We over here don't have that thing.
Until we get that, we ain't got no business putting nobody in no obscure position where we are ridiculing them based upon what they did because we are just as ignorant and so we got smarter faster than they did.
Well, we can ask our brothers right here. How long y'all been? Y'all got 2 generations of y'all being here.
Yeah.
How y'all seen a decline in 2 generations, 20 years span? They seen a decline in their culture. Am I right?
I have, yeah.
And where does that decline come from?
It comes from the house. I mean, like I was saying, my family was immigrants. A lot of those kids went through traumatic experiences just coming to America. And now they see the culture that they're, going to the projects. You see what's going on there. That's what you're going to follow.
Yes.
You're going to follow the prison system. You're going right to prison after
that. And see, this is the thing. Now that we are here, this is the thing that they didn't want us to do. Sit here and have this conversation.
Exactly.
Because guess what happens? That spark unites something. Because now you realize we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
We can sit at the round table. We ain't sitting at no square table. We sitting at a round table. Because that's what? That's 360 degrees of understanding. I mean, it's going to be reciprocated.
Exactly. All around.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we can't use the word can't because we can. Because long as this is the will right here.
Right.
Once you came here and sat here and listened and involved yourself in here, now we have an alternative and a reasoning why we should be doing this.
Not real choice. Brother, why would you say that the most of the Sudanese population leave Africa and come to the United States?
War. Mostly war.
The war.
Prisoner of war.
Where?
In Africa.
In Africa. And who's the war with in Africa?
With each other, but it does start from the Europeans.
Who is the principal entity that finances the entity that is against the righteous people of Africa?
The imperialistic powers.
Europeans, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
All right. We have to understand. We have to understand what we're dealing with, and particularly us in this country, because we are the closest to the thinking of the European.
Well, but you got to remember, when the Europeans go around the whole globe, they see more darker race than they do their own. Mm-hmm. But only why they're able to control and manipulate is because we're divided we're divided.
No, it's not.
Because if they would have never took the time to come and speak with us, they probably would say, you know what? They don't like us. Yeah. We don't like them.
Shit.
Am I right? When y'all taught that when y'all first came over here? That they might not like y'all.
The Europeans know that they cannot drop any kind of weapons upon Africa because they would destroy the mineral context.
Yeah, we know that.
But then you have to
But if everybody don't, if the globe, if those who are the minority is at odds with each other because of tribal, because of culture, because of language, because whatever barriers that cause them to be divided
with each other,
and don't find a common denominator and say that the common denominator is the enemy, and the enemy that oppresses us is the thing that keeps us divided.
Right. So we need to remove the problem, the European control.
Okay, we're gonna go to number 5.
if God is love, then why are families divided by different denominations?
Who taught him that?
Well,
What book is he reading it from?
what you
What are
mean?
you talking about?
When you go to biblical scripture,
Mm-hmm.
then I need to know what Bible are you reading from?
Like what version? Like King James?
Well, you
All right.
got King James, you got the Quran, you got everybody.
Don't read me nothing about God that's been written by Europeans.
I agree with that part. I agree.
Period.
But ain't the Quran divided too?
Quran is not written by Europeans.
But ain't it divided?
The Quran.
No, I'm saying, but isn't it? Ain't it divided? All blacks and all blacks that don't embrace Quran.
There are no whites that will even.
They don't embrace the Torah. They don't embrace all the other different books that come out. Am I right though?
I don't understand your question. You gotta make it clear.
I just made it
Say it
clear.
again one more time.
I said, you said the Bible is one book that they are divided because it's European, right?
Europeans wrote it.
Okay. The Quran is written by a black guy, right?
The Quran is written by
Not a black guy.
People of
melon.
Indians.
Okay.
Yes.
Ain't it divided amongst its people?
No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No. Some people.
Some people believe in the Quran, some don't, right?
Right.
Why is that?
They haven't read it.
It's just like, but when I listen to Muslims and Muslims and Christians,
Muslims and Muslims,
they're different. I know they're different. They're different. But I noticed that they utilize the Bible, they utilize the Quran, they utilize all of them to get their teaching across.
The Quran has only been exposed to Africans in this country less than in 85 years. We didn't even know anything about the Quran.
But when there's truth, there's truth and there's lies in each book.
And every book that we get our hands on is produced and distributed by Europeans.
Okay, so why are we having this discussion then?
It sounds like y'all agree in a way.
Because
It sounds like they agree in a way.
we are trying to get to the root of our problems as blacks in America.
Yeah, we know the oppression is one of the things, but to go back to our subject matter, what was that? To go back to the subject matter.
They said if God is love, then
If God is love,
What book says that?
if God is love,
What book says that?
There's no book that says that. It's a question.
Well, then who's saying it? Who's saying God is love? God is all. God is all. You would not
right.
have evil if God did not permit it.
okay.
God is all.
Okay, so but if God was if we believe that God was love and he loved
God is all.
and he's all
Right.
he's all loving, all caring, all and hate he hates sin,
all of it.
right? And he hates sin, right?
Exactly. I mean, you read the Old Testament. He was burning and
Yeah.
crashing everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Some nations, yeah.
So if we say that he was all, okay, and we say that God is love, so why can't
'Cause they was evil.
so why
They
can't us
Exactly.
as a people come together?
Because we don't know enough.
Know
We
enough
don't
like
read enough.
know enough like what?
We don't know enough. We've only been able to go to school in less than 100
Israel now
years
or the
in
Israel
this
back
country.
then?
We only been educated in the basic system for less
I
than
don't know.
40 years.
'Cause I know
in
they're
this
his
country.
people, so he give them a lot.
We ain't got enough knowledge to talk about what is all and what it ain't.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's what we are here for now is to gather that kind of conversation so that we can get input from somebody that not have some extra stuff, but don't bring no old stuff. All right.
Okay, now let me read. It said Mississippi said he said he's correct. Our everyday life is based on the white man's system to keep us from God. Then it says, but we can actually defeat the obstacles. Then he said, being independent and unifying together as a community and race, we can do anything with nothing. The organization exists for the soul of spirituality, political, and socially. Our tribe still alive for a reason. God is all things, good and evil. He is the creator of all things. The Torah was written by us. The New Testament is white. Sunni and Satai are divided. Sure, correct. God is all things. And when we say, and I want to say, when I say if God is love, because that's a principle. That's a principle that all of us should obtain. Because we cannot function as human beings or function as a community or as a collective if we don't love one another. That power of love is going to ensure us our destiny. And without that love, guess what? There is a dividing factor. Because if I walk up with you and I don't have enough love for myself, and love the fact that okay, you are a brother that I can relate with, we're like-minded, and guess what? We can come together, we can build on that. But if we have hatred, or envy, there's no way we're going to be able to come close. We're not really going to come close.
Right?
Exactly. So that's why I said love. If God is love, how come our families are divided? Because their family was of love at one point in time. They used to have structure.
Not in this country. We don't know nothing about that.
And we had it. We
might have had one or two generations of it.
Yeah,
that ain't enough. That ain't enough to make no rule of thumb.
It's enough to dance around the campfire.
That shows that it is possible if everything's in place. If everybody got the same inner tuition that grandma had, if everybody got the same inner tuition that grandpa had, all right. Huh?
Where did grandma get it from? Where grandpa get it from?
I use grandpa as in mine because past my grandpa, we didn't have it. We're still in slavery.
Okay. But what did they depend on while they were in slavery?
Pardon?
What did they depend on while they were in slavery?
They didn't have a choice. It didn't make no difference.
So these people were not of a spiritual mindset.
They were slaves. They didn't have no choice.
They didn't. I'm asking you a question. Were they not of a spiritual mindset?
If they were not in recognition of the Creator, then they would have not been able to get done what they need to get done.
You say that one more time.
If they were not in the recognition of the Creator, then they would have not been able to get done what they got done.
Okay. So they recognized God.
Obviously.
Okay. So then let me ask you another question. Being made in His image.
Pardon?
Being made in God's image.
Nobody knows what God's image is.
My question is this. Okay. Is God black, white, Hispanic?
Nobody knows.
Green?
Nobody knows.
Okay. So why do we speak of God as if He's just black? Why do we come from a black perspective if nobody knows? Like you just said.
Right.
Well, why do we call God a He as well?
And God is all.
Yeah.
Okay, so if God is all,
God is all.
then why are we not all inclusive then? If God is all, if we're saying that we're applying God's principles, keep talking about the Ten Commandments, okay? Mm-hmm. We're applying God's principles, okay? Then why do we speak as if we're so divided?
Because we are.
But why do we choose? Just because it's just like this. If we're in class, if we go to school, right, and we have classes, just because you skip don't mean I have to skip,
right?
Right.
Okay, I have a choice whether I'm gonna skip,
right?
Just like you have a choice whether you're gonna skip,
right?
Okay, so just because some are divided, does that mean that we have to communicate and be divided as well? Just because of other people are divided? Because are we not doing this for the purpose of bringing together communities instead of dividing communities?
You can't have a cake and eat it too.
Why not?
Because if there wasn't no problem, it would be no problem. That's why
how do you address problems though?
I get
what solutions?
Exactly, what solutions?
The basic growth or exuberation that I get out of here, out of us meeting, is being able to be contradicted and accept what the contradiction is. That's a huge learning curve. All right, that it stimulates me.
Yes.
All right. It don't bother me when somebody tells me on something that proves me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But it didn't diminish me.
Right.
All right.
Mhm.
That gives me another more growth.
Mhm.
All right.
That's what we need as a community.
Exactly.
We don't have enough of that
But no.
because people take things too personal.
Well, no.
Take the truth and it hurts. You can't handle the truth.
My purpose and goal in the long range, as it applies to here, is not to have a whole bunch of other folks meeting in the same kind of scenario. Is to be in control of our whole delivery communicating system that does not allow any kind of nonsensical information that we already know is nonsensical, because the masses of the stuff we give is still European controlled. All right. When we get to the point where we can come into a room and be told something and you know that that's true, so it makes you wrong, that shouldn't hurt you.
But it does for most people.
But it does.
But that's a learning process for them, all right? Because it lets you know that you didn't know it. Now,
Exactly.
if you are so ignorant, use the word.
Yes.
If you are so ignorant that you don't recognize the truth when you hear it.
But what is our greatest enemy? Illiteracy.
No, our greatest
No,
enemy.
our greatest enemy is illiteracy.
That's the tool.
You know why illiterate? You know why illiterate is the greatest downfall of us? Because when those who say they know and don't know but claim to know and didn't go and try to know is one of our biggest problems. Because when I know something, if I know that we're gonna come in this room and I know all of us is not gonna agree,
Right.
and I'm willing to still sit here and have the discussion
Mm-hmm.
without taking things personal, that's knowing.
That's known. Yeah.
But when somebody walk in here thinking, oh well, someone's gonna believe what I say,
Right.
and I want them to believe what I say, and then as soon as somebody don't agree, they get up and walk out, and guess what? Nothing gets solved.
Nothing gets solved.
That's the problem in our community.
One thing gets solved though.
Yeah, they walk out.
Yeah.
You see their butt as they walking out.
But it depends upon how many other people are able to work through that. All right. If the only reason why you walk out is that you
came in with an agenda.
You can't stand to be told no and realize that you are wrong. Now, if somebody says no and they prove that you're wrong, that ain't a loss. That's a gain.
It's a game.
Yeah,
People
but some people. I mean, what I'm saying in our community, as we sit down and you seen when we go into little meetings and sit in the little meetings, people come in with an agenda, expecting to be heard, and when they're not being heard, they take it offensively. Your point ain't gonna be heard today. It might be heard tomorrow. It might be heard 2 months from now. But guess what? Still keep coming.
So keep coming.
Because you got to chisel when you want to craft the art and you want to build a nice statue, and you only got a chisel and a hammer. You can't start and say, "Oh, I'm tired." No, you got to keep chiseling. You got to keep doing it. It's delicate work, and it takes time and progress. But guess what? At the end result, you can charge whatever. You can put a price tag on it, because guess what?
Right.
You can say it took these many hours for me to create this thing, and then that's how you value the price tag.
Right.
With our people, we got to learn to take the time, chisel at the things that we need to do, and we got to stop the word can't, because can't means I got this tool in my hand and I can't work no more.
We ain't got that much time, bro. That's why I'm coming here. We ain't got that kind of time no more. I said that 40 years ago. What you just said, I said 40 years ago.
Yeah, but guess what? They said what was yesterday is still today, right?
No. I'm not in that area. I'm not in that area saying I don't let my thinking regress, so I got to communicate at that level.
Okay. I got another. Prince Champ said, "God is love. He doesn't allow evil. He is cleaning it up. Imagine you spilled juice on your new suit. You have two choices: clean it or burn it. Either way, you will." Okay, he got a long one. He said, "You will be free of the stain, but one of the ways will allow you to keep the suit you like. imagine your child was addicted to drugs. You could burn that child or help overcome it. Burning them sounds wild, right? So you help them. The Bible says the wages of sin is death. So Jesus died for us and rose again to help us kick the sin out of the system. Instead of burning us all and losing God, died in order to hold on to us. He then rose again to be with us. Those who don't want him, the stain, the refuse to come out, will be the ones who burn, but not all of us. He made a point not to lose us all. God, I love it. Rather, he is loving of God.
I don't. It's that time.
But but the thing that hurts me the most is when people knock other people's religion. Now, and I have to stress this part. I'm gonna give you. Let me give it back to you after I'm done with this part. Let me give you this factor, because I have these fights all the time with a lot of my different comrades.
Right.
You don't believe in the Bible because you say it's written by a white man. But that same book that you hate the most stopped me when I was in them streets. I was a gangster. I used to want to go upside people's heads. I used to want to rob you. I used to want to do all these things. But that book, when I read it, gave me a different outlook on life. And it taught me a different perspective and a different concept of how I can go about going through life. So it made me a better person.
Right.
How can a man fix his mouth or a woman fix their mouth to tell a man that book that you're reading is not right?
I agree.
Kindergarten and 10th grade.
No, it's a difference between miseducation and uneducation.
Right.
Let me ask you too.
Between the kindergarten and the first grade. If a grown man comes to his awakening, all right, he can start in kindergarten, but he should have enough common sense that he wants to spend the whole year in kindergarten. Few months, few meetings, do some reading on his own or whatever. All right, we don't have the time to re-educate the masses of our people. That's why I go to the single households and the men in prison.
So why free all of them if we don't have the time to change all of them?
That's a good question. I'd like you to answer that.
Say it again.
Why free all of them if we don't have the time to educate?
You mean why free all of them?
And transform them.
You should get all them in
Yeah, because they are through.
Get them all
Out of prison?
Yeah.
Oh, you ain't never heard me say that?
You didn't say free all of
No,
them to get them therapy?
ain't no way in the world we should free them. All right? All right? But we should be in control of whatever curriculum is in there for their
re-education. They do need to be reformed.
Exactly. Not the oppressor who's going to let masses of men that are in prison have homosexuality in a whole different section of the prison.
Just traumatizing each other.
All right? No.
Yeah. Raping.
Exactly.
Killing.
We need to get,
monsters.
Educate them, all right? And to keep them from getting in worse shape that they are. The oppressor controls all the prison. We don't control the prison. The
They get money from them.
Because they done gone totally crazy off the mind. He had to put them locked up. That means they're beneficial for us on an army end or on a military end. All right, but there's still a learning process that has to go on.
But do you remember back in the days when the gangs had a foothold on the streets and the gangs actually when they was actually structured.
Right.
When you did something in the community, you raped or robbed or anything, that the gangs.
The Crips and the Bloods were founded on that total process.
GDs, Vice Lords, Crips, Blood, all of them had a structure. If you violated,
you was in trouble.
You got in trouble. You was turned over to them.
It'd have been good if they hadn't given that good cocaine.
Yeah. Prince Champ said transformation requires re-education.
Right.
Read the next one for me.
I was gonna say a lot of the reason why people don't change though is because of cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
You're stuck. Yeah, lack of knowledge. And when they challenge your beliefs, and it's like, oh, they challenge my ego, myself.
Yes.
I gotta fight against that.
Yes.
It's more about you.
Exactly.
It's about them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not a servant.
Yep. Serving.
You're self-serving.
Yeah. Yes. They're not they selfish when they should be selfless.
But no
You know
problem,
what I
be
mean?
no problem.
And that's where the problem. But you know, this is a good conversation. I'm glad y'all came in on this. You know what I mean? Because this is stuff that, you know, and this is what I like, because no matter, we can have disagreements, but guess what? As we walk out this door, we all brothers.
We gonna dap each other up.
And this is my elder. This is who I learned from.
You're right. This is the elder.
This is my elder. I learned from him.
Yeah.
Now we have disagreements. Don't get it twisted. But that's student from a teacher to be a student. Because he's a student, it's vice versa. We both teach and we both are students at the same time. That just because someone's your teacher don't mean they're not the student either. We all learn from one another. That's where our cognitive differences come in at, because we can take the time to learn from one another. Exactly. We can transform the growth and our development state, because there's a lot of people who are stuck mentally and psychologically and chemically stuck. How do we deal with them?
Well, there's a lot of
You got to deal with them.
there's a lot of people, even just in our community overall, who work against themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
In other words, they talk a lot. It's like the woulda, coulda, shouldas, or you know, or people say, "When I could have been this, I could have been that. Oh man, I was going to do this and I was going to do that." Or you run to they just straight lie and say, "I'm doing this and I'm doing that." You're not doing any of that. And bottom line, what it boils down to is that they're not focused enough to do what needs to be done in order to get where they want to go. And that's where we find ourselves clashing with one another. Because now I'm jealous of you, you're jealous of me, you think you're better than me, she thinks she's better than, it's like, wait a minute, why are we competing with one another? Because guess what? I'm not better than you, you're not better than me. If you want it, you can get it. If I want it, I can get it.
Exactly.
Okay? But why do we have to fight? Or why do we have to run up in each other's houses and take and feel that we have a right to take what we want by force?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a sickness.
Yeah,
That's a sickness.
Okay, that's a mindset. That's a sickening. That is a mindset that is selfish.
Right.
So as we sit around and talk about, well, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, this is nonsensical, that's nonsensical, whatever the case may be. No, what's nonsensical is the fact that we don't take accountability. That's nonsensical to me.
And I want to, and let me add something, because you remember my son, Little Mike.
Yeah.
Now, my son, Little Mike, he has an impulse deficit. Yeah. He doesn't think until after the fact. He does it first, and then he's able to process it later. We have a lot of people in our community like that.
But you know why that is?
And the reason why I'm saying that is because those who say they know really don't know. Because some people walk around you in the midst of you, dress up, look sharp, look like they got it all up here, and don't have it all here.
Don't have nothing. Yeah.
Don't have it. It's missing marbles up here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And that's what I'm saying it, because I'm not trying to put my son on blast. I had to learn, because I was beating on him because he would just do stupid stuff. And then I had to sit back one day. I sat back and watched him, and I said, man, he doesn't think. If he gets away with it for 5 or 10 minutes, he feel like he accomplished something.
Well, and that's my point right there. Is that it's we don't, oftentimes we don't count up the cost.
Yes.
Of where it is we want to go, or what it is that we want to do. We don't count up the cost. In anything worth achieving, it takes work.
Yes.
Work.
Yes.
You have to be willing to sacrifice what needs to be sacrificed in order to get to where you want to go. But if you want to sit around and say, I can't, I'm unable to, I will never be able to, I will never achieve this, I will never achieve that. Or if you're raised in a household where your parents telling you you're stupid, or your dad's telling you as a young lady, you know, you're good for nothing but laying on your back. I mean, these are things that I've heard.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You talking about miseducation?
Yeah.
That's a miseducation for you. You wonder why families are broken down? Because they're mentally broken.
Capitalism is a bitch.
It's like, wait a minute. What do you do with what it is that you say you know? Because you can know something but lack understanding. There's a whole lot of people walking around talking about what they know.
They understand in their head, but not in their heart.
What they don't understand is the problem.
Yeah. They have lack of comprehension.
Lack of So think about it. When someone decides, like if somebody's gonna go in and rob a bank, okay, they already know that there's risk involved with robbing a bank.
Mm-hmm.
Because why do you think they're being sneaky? Because they know that they might get caught.
Mm-hmm.
So they got enough sense to know that they need to be careful because they don't want to get caught. So it's not like they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They know. Okay? But when they get caught and they think about it after the fact, it's because they didn't account for something that you know they're being caught. But they always knew that there was a risk of being caught.
And I want to elaborate on that. There was a movie called Things You Do in Denver when the chips are down. If you ever get a chance, go watch that movie. They had an assignment from the mob boss. He gave this guy an assignment to pay a debt back. So the guy went and gathered all his friends. He gathered 4 of his friends. He wanted to go and help do this to go handle the situation that the mob boss wanted him to do. The mob boss said, "Do not hurt the guy that you're going after," because it was I think it was his son or something like that. Mm-hmm. But he had to go handle the situation, and he plus did it with cognitive deficit. When he went there, instead of him doing it himself, he hired his 2 friends to go and do it. But they had walkie-talkies, and they're sitting there talking on the walkie-talkie, trying to communicate amongst each other, saying, "Okay, we're about to pull them over." They wouldn't disguise themselves as cops. Now, one of the guys he had was a loose cannon, and he knew it.
Impulsive, yeah.
Impulsive. Then he had the other guy, that was the older guy, was supposed to be controlling this guy. So when they actually pulled the guy over, and when they started talking to the guy was cocky. You know, he's a mob boss. You know, he's a mob boss son. So, you know, he's kind of got this attitude. So he's talking crazy to the pretending cops. The guy that didn't have it all couldn't stand it. The older guy was like, "Oh man, no, just leave it alone. Calm down. We here to just do what we're supposed to do. Get what we're supposed to get and whatever we're supposed to do." Guy said, "Okay." He calmed down for a minute. The guy called him a punk, a pussy, or something he called him. He took the knife and stabbed the guy up.
Damn.
Jeopardized all of them. So now the mob boss want them all dead.
Yeah.
He want them all dead now because that was not the order he was given.
Right.
Translation: having the wrong person on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You gotta be careful who you have riding on your bus.
No personnel.
Where you're going.
Yes.
Okay. Some people you gotta kick off the bus.
Yes.
Okay. When you know they're a loose cannon, kick them off the bus because they're gonna jeopardize the whole plan. Okay. Not everybody's gonna go with the plan. You gotta know. Okay. Well, this person's good for this. In other words, when you put a team together, based on what areas of strength that they have.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, this person's good at this. This person's good at this. This person's good at this. If you know you have no need for the person, you better get rid of them.
Get rid of them, yeah.
Okay, because if you keep them, you're gonna jeopardize the whole thing.
Yes, and you know, and the reason why I share that story is because when we're talking about can't and could, they could have successfully pulled that off, but he chose the wrong person to go and do the job when he could have just actually did it himself.
Exactly.
But I didn't understand why he knew this guy was a loose cannon. He was a military vet, Marine type guy. He was a special force guy. I don't know why he thought he was the best for the job when he wasn't.
Yeah, it didn't make no sense.
It didn't make sense. He already had trauma. You knew he had trauma. So why would you send him? But see, I believe that the guy who sent him didn't have his marbles either because he would have known not to send him.
Exactly.
Think about it like this, okay?
But he walked around like he's the most smartest, had it all together guy. That was the reason why I'm using that.
Well, think about a family dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you go to bed with a crack addict in your house, and then you wake up wondering why your VCR, your TV, and other things are missing.
Yeah.
Okay, you got enough sense. You know that this person does what they do, but you still go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That anybody can fall victim to that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why people fall victim to it?
It'd be their families or friends, people they
Emotional
know.
attachment.
Exactly. Yep.
That's why they fall. That's why they fall victim to it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people just lie to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they say, well, they do it to everybody else, but they won't do it to me. Okay. Relationships work the exact same way.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You get with somebody who cheated on somebody to get with you.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have nerve enough to get mad when they cheat on you.
Yes.
But that's how you got it.
Yeah. You got it. Where you start something, where it's going to end.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. That's how things work on a regular basis.
Right.
Anybody can fall victim to that.
Okay, I want to go to number 6. Because we got 3. We got 3 left. Yeah.
Okay,
You want to switch with me?
how do we know if someone is called by God or regurgitated from what they have learned from colleges?
Me personally, I could say I believe. So my mom, she has, I'll say, spiritual gifts. Like I remember one time, me and him was in high school, like 15 or 16, and my sister let us try a little shooter. And the next day, my mama called me. She said, "I had a dream you were drinking." I said, "What are you talking about?" Or actually, no, I admitted it because it was true. Like, and it just kind of shocked me to my core. And she's had a lot of experiences where she, because like she said, she hear a voice that told her to go talk to somebody, and it ends up like they were like dying. She has to pray for them or something, and they end up being healed. You know, I think it kind of exactly. She tell me she have dreams where she leave her body and she's going to like and walking around like looking around the world, and I think it's just by the actions that they do. You know, some people you'll see that they're blessed by God. You know, you'll see that they have these gifts to change the world or help other people in ways that most people can't. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like she's chosen because of what I've seen from her,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just crazy to me. Like the spirit exists. She's the reason why I know the spirit exists.
Yeah. What do you think, Elijah?
Anytime you have to deal with the spirit. We particularly Africans in America weren't taught spiritually that the spirit dwells in us.
We are the church.
You don't have just one spirit. The spirit is what you consume. You can have a good spirit in you. You can have a bad spirit in you. The one that becomes the most beneficial to you is the one that you utilize the most. That's why we have single parent households and more men in prison. We are oppressed. We are miseducated. We are segregated to the point where we can't be proficient.
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to realizing that is something that is collective with us, we deal with it independently. And so the offshoots of that, we are affected by it independently. Whereas if we did it collectively, rebelling against those things, we'd have a much different impact with those who are in charge causing the oppression.
And I want to add to what you said, Elder. We forget you didn't add in their mindset. A lot of those people, a lot of mothers that are single mothers, there's a mindset there too, and then there's men in prison, there's a mindset. Our circumstances are due to oppression and being POWs of the United States. But we also have a mindset that we have accepted to being oppressed. We have accepted of being prisoners of war. We have accepted that. And so when we stop accepting, just like Harriet Tubman said, I could have freed more slaves if they only knew that they were slaves. That was a mindset she was speaking on. She was talking about when she was trying to lead them out, they refused to go. Just like a horse when it's in a barn and the barn is on fire. You can't drag that horse or that cow out of there. They'd just rather die in their pasture, because that's where their comfortability is at.
Comfortability.
So we have to break the mindset. And if the single mothers wants to not remain single mothers, they have to break the mindset of listening to what you can't go you can't hang out with those who don't have and try to tell you what you don't need. I just don't get that.
You ain't got no choice.
Yeah.
What?
If everybody don't have, you ain't got no choice.
Well,
No.
Well, I think when you don't have something, when you lack something, it's so you can go get it out in life. You know,
Right.
like I know you mentioned the single father households. You know, when you don't have a father to teach you certain things, like how to not give up. You know, simple things, tie a tie. It teaches you gotta go learn it yourself. And,
Yeah.
and when you learn something
And you
yourself,
want to
I
be
feel
a
like
better
it's more
father.
powerful.
And
Yeah.
you want to become a better father because you lack something that you wish you had.
Yeah.
How you know you're lacking it if you don't? How do you know that you're lacking it?
Well, I come from a single father household, and I turned 20 now, 21. I'm experiencing things that, like, damn, if I had a dad, I would have known this.
Thank you.
Like, just experiencing life, that's how I figure it
Yes.
A
out.
lot of things.
A lot of us.
There's a lot of things that I had to learn on my
You're
own.
gonna get into
Yeah.
osmosis. You don't have to have a dad. They only just bring you to the earth. You know, because we can't implement a lot of things. We have to do that at a much younger age anyway. So that's why our difficulty is. We don't have enough men passing the age of 16, going into 19. There's no transition. The old adage about you're 21, you're a man. Only time that we really understand in this country is when you get sentenced to a different kind of time. All right? And a lot of times people don't want to hear that, but they don't recognize how many of us are victimized by this system because of our lack of knowledge. And so we don't realize how important it is to gain this knowledge and pass it on.
But we're victim to lack of collectiveness, because if we don't come together as a collective and we individualize ourselves, because everybody, even in a family, we throw family get-togethers. You got these pockets of people over here, over there. Won't interact with everybody, but only interact with those who like-minded to themselves. Which that is common. Which you can see that in gangs. You can see that in you can have a gang full of 500 members and only 3 people gonna hang per unit. You know what I mean? It just works that way. That's just how it works. Even if you're in the military, you got a brigade, you got a battalion. If each individual, even though they come together when it comes time for war, but everybody's not hanging out with each other.
That's true.
That is common. That is the common denominator. That's the common understanding. But as we moving forward in family, if we talk about structure and we talk about the healing process of building families up, we have to accept that everybody's not going to be connected on one accord.
Yep.
But what we can do is create an environment where it's not hostile toward them being separate.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where it happened. That's what draw families to fall apart, because people try to force something that's not. It's like a puzzle. You can't force a square into a triangle.
Right.
You got to allow it to be what it is and allow it to still make up the puzzle.
What do we have in place to minimize the hazardousness of single-parent households and most of all our men in prison? What, as a group of people, do we have in place for that dynamic to be as pervasive as it is? Single-parent households, the number of men that are in prison. What mechanisms do we have in place to rectify and accommodate that problem?
Well,
It's called accountability.
No, President.
No, listen to what I'm
If
saying.
you can't make no rules, then you just got out of slavery. How do you talk about accountability? What kind of, what are you going to use accountability? A 35, a shotgun? What are you going to
Listen
use?
to what I'm trying to say. Listen to what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is it's a change in mindset. It's like that. You recognize there's a problem, and guess what? There's a lot of single women that recognize it's a problem. They'll tell you, where are all the men at? All the men going this way, all the men going that way, all men are dogs. They recognize there's a problem, but they don't do nothing about the problem.
What they supposed to do about it?
Well, let me
What they
explain.
supposed to do about it?
Okay, let me tell you what they can start doing. Who's the first teachers of a child?
The parents.
Parents.
No, what parent?
Necessarily
No, it's not.
Right.
The mother. The mother's the first teacher, the first mentor, the first of everything for that child.
Right.
Whatever that mother is enduring in that home, it influences the child's behavior.
It does.
Once the mother understands her role in the home, It changes dynamics of the child's well-being and his outlook. The father is the discipline and the provider. That's what he brings to the table.
That's 40 years ago.
No, it's still the same concept.
Not.
It just ain't there.
It ain't there
because
you
know why? Because we're talking about that right now. Bringing the families back together. The women got to understand you can't go to a dry well and try to look for water.
Right.
You go into another woman who doesn't have anything. They pour in your cup. She's got an empty cup and she's pouring in your cup. What she's pouring? Nothing.
Yeah, that's because it's cheaper for them to be lesbians and they don't have no different thoughts.
It ain't just the lesbian part. It's the point of going to somebody. It's like going to the blind, asking the blind to tell you to see.
But you also got to see that the men aren't really where they need to be as well.
Thank you.
100%, yeah.
Yes. And when the men ain't being who they are, because guess what?
They ain't around.
You saying systematic? Okay, we say systematically the men ain't being who they're supposed to be because
society, what are we supposed to be doing about that?
Because in society, what happened was, and I can break that down. In society, when the men went to war, they came back on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the days, you remember that?
Vietnam,
but that was the instrumental part of the next generation for the generations to start falling off.
Right.
It's because they came back from Vietnam, the Korean and the Philippine War.
Right.
They came back on drugs, and guess what happened? Those men ended up start getting incarcerated. They start getting strung out, and they start not to be fathers in their homes anymore. Right? So what was the next step for the women? They had to get out and start providing for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So so that was the system that helped that manifested that. Now we got all of us sitting here right now have knowledge of that understanding.
Right. Now what are you going to do about it?
Now what are we going to do about it? Instead of saying I can't.
That's the accountability.
Instead of saying I can't.
Okay, I see what you're saying there.
Too many men in prison, and you have too many women that have been in charge of the households for too long that they're not going to alter the situation on a telephone call.
But this is the question. Okay, yeah, you got men in prison. And here's the
masses.
Okay, but here's the issue. They're still going.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean men still going to prison?
They're still going.
Well, right.
No, wait a minute,
and there's more women going to prison now too.
But the question is why?
Because somebody got to go out and knock somebody else in the head if ain't nobody else here to do it. Wow. Truth is the light.
And now you got more women you got more women starting to go to prison than men.
My question
I didn't know that part.
My question is, do people have a choice to knock somebody upside the head and go to prison?
Not much. Not much.
They don't have a choice.
Not much.
Why not?
You tell me.
Oh, you said not much.
If you ask me why not, you must know there's an alternative. If you ask me why not, you must think there's an alternative.
Why is there not an alternative?
You tell all the alternatives.
Job.
What?
Get a job, or go educate yourself.
Become an entrepreneur.
There are options out there.
A lot of fellas become entrepreneurs because they can't get a job.
Choices. You don't have to. You know
what the real choice is? If you can't do it for yourself, look at it for the child. Right. You know, every day I wake up in the morning, I don't want to go to work.
Right.
I don't want to go to work. Guess what? Guess what I have to think about to get up to go to work? I got to feed my kids.
Right.
I got to do this. I don't want to get behind on child support. I don't want to do this. Right. I find a reason to get up and go.
Mm-hmm.
You think I'm going to allow myself to get taken out of my house and taken away from my kids? You think I'm going to make a decision that's going to cause me to be taken out of my house and away from my kids?
No, because your foundation is so that you have mechanisms that are in place, or you know how to put mechanisms in place so that it don't happen to you.
But guess what? That's not how it always was for me, though. I learned that.
Right.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. A change in mindset. When I'm saying
what is it you think that enhanced once you recognized you had all alternatives? What do you think it was that caused you to recognize all alternatives and take that direction as opposed to another?
I'm gonna tell you. We were running the street. We were running the street. Okay? My eyes, and he'll tell you, were always on the other side of the track. My eyes were on the other. How do I get over there? You telling me I can't get over there Our parents told us don't go across the bridge. Our parents told us don't go across the track. Our parents don't go here, don't go there. I always ask why. Why? Hold on a second.
What do you think the main reason why you have
that drive?
Because it's more than drive. You have a self.
And I can explain it because
you have a self-belief of your capabilities of getting things accomplished. What do you think the main thing was for you to get there?
Well, I can say this: when we was hanging, I was the knucklehead. He was always the one that always checked me. He younger than me. I was one that always wanted to get into something. I always wanted to fight. I was the fighter. I was always wanted to get into a fight with somebody. I meet some people and I'd be like, we were sitting there talking, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, WUAO, I don't like that dude over there." I'd be over there knocking him upside his head. He used to get mad at me and leave me at the club. And it didn't take for it. It didn't register right away. It took years. That's why I said we have a choice to change, and we have a choice to understand, let people change when they need to change.
What do you believe that the foundation that he had to get him that self-determination?
No, the foundation came from the same family roots, but what it is, we just took different approaches at the time because he got it a little bit earlier than I got it.
It's like this. Here's an example.
Say what up?
You got. There's a story about two twins. They're identical twins, born to an alcoholic father. One becomes an alcoholic. They ask him, "Hey, why did you become an alcoholic?" Because my father was an alcoholic. They ask the other one. The other one becomes an entrepreneur. Okay, and they ask him, why didn't you become an alcoholic? He said, because my father was an alcoholic.
One saw it, one didn't.
It's a matter of choice.
And one saw it and one didn't.
And okay, let me give you.
One chose it and one didn't.
And let me give you a better. I'm gonna give you the native proverbs. The native proverb one of that story. Two wolves. One wolf evil, one wolf good. And one wolf had jealousy, envy, all that. He had all those things. And the other one had hospitality, had peace, had this. And then it said, the grandson came up to the grandfather when the grandfather was talking about the two wolves. He said, "Man, which wolf is going to win?" He said, "The one you feed the most." Mm-hmm. If you feed envy and jealousy and all that, that's the wolf you're going to become. So if you don't want to become the evil wolf, then you feed the good wolf what it needs. So what we're dealing with today in society, I'm not saying that I needed to go through what I went through, because I had an example, my grandpa and everybody else, and I had a younger cousin trying to tell me, "Oh man, don't do that, man. You need to stop doing that." But at the time, I didn't see because I was angry because of my childhood life. It was all about childhood trauma. A lot of stuff comes from childhood trauma. It was going on in the home. And that's because it was due to my mom and the issues that was going on in the home. He knows I ain't gonna explain all that. But he knows what was going on in the home. And when that happens, you become bitter and angry. Mm-hmm. But if it wasn't for him saying the things he said as my younger cousin, my grandpa, and other, I didn't really have that many uncles. I didn't have no uncles and aunties. It was all those younger people. We was young.
Each other. It's crazy.
It was just young. I didn't have no uncles and them around telling me how to do this, do that. So it was always neighborhood older people talking to me. Mm-hmm. So I ventured out, and they got into church, and it really hurt me because they all got into church, and I was still living this life. He never turned on me, but other ones did. Right. "Oh, you two, don't mess with Mike. Mike out there in the street. Mike, woo. That kind of hurt me, but it was good because he was still accepting me, but he kind of pulled away a little bit too, but he didn't pull away, like push me away. Right. He just pulled away like, "Hey man, I'm trying to get my life right and married, and I got this." But he still he was still talking to me. The other ones just said, "No man, you two out there." Mm. So when I went out there in the streets, and I got real deep in it, but it taught me a lesson. Because I'm like, dang, I miss my family because all we had was all we needed. All we had was all we needed. Because when I had my family, I didn't need nothing else. I didn't have friends like that. I had my cousin. We had each other's back. We had each other's well-being. And I know They ain't gonna want to see me hurt. They ain't gonna want to see me dead.
Exactly.
So they gonna always give me the best advice.
Right.
When I got in the streets and I started realizing other cats didn't think that way. It was all about them.
Mm-hmm.
They turn on you for the little things. You'd be surprised on what members would turn on you for. They get jealous of you over the stupidest stuff because you a little bit knowledgeable over them, or you look like you got a little bit more money than them, or you got all the girl. Dudes turn on you for the most stupidest stuff, but my family never did that.
Right.
The family structure is the only thing that would deter anyone from taking the wrong steps. That's why I bring out this piece about the DMC. The system is predicated on having.
Wait, what's the DMC?
What's the DMC? DMC? Yeah. DMC is disproportionate minority contact.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
What that is that they did a study on us, and they recognized that Black males reach a level of maturity. I won't say black. Males reach a level of maturity somewhere between 16 and 19. Okay? The study came out and said that Black males now don't reach that maturity until somewhere between 23 and 25.
Yeah.
All right? So that the government now says that they find a problem child in the house. And that situation can be at 3 years old. Mm. They can walk into a house based upon a telephone call, take that 3-year-old child out of the house, take him and put him into a foster home and pay them to take care of them, where it used to be between 16 and 19, they now can take it till they're 25 years old. That means they can take a male child, put him in a foster care 3, and he can stay in a foster care setting till he is 25 years old. That means he's treated like a boy. 25 years old. That's law. That's law. And we as a people and organization, this is the thing that's going to happen. I'm going back to work after the 15th of February. Friday. There are no organizations in our community that have the guidelines and get the money to deal with these kinds of issues in our community and are doing it.
They don't get the funding, so it's like, why?
No, they get the funding.
Okay.
And those and 2/3 of them of the same hue get them paychecks and drive out west to live out there now. Okay. That to me is genocidal.
Yeah. And well, not to cut you off. We passed our time, and we need to close it up, and everybody need to do their final thoughts. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I know you was save that and bring it next week. But I'm sorry. Sorry, I know it don't seem like it was that long, but we've been going way past our time. Now, I would like for everybody to give a final thought of what they took from this message. We didn't even go through all of our things, but I'll find a way to get those points out. Hey, bro, once you down there, once you give, what was your final thought? What would you get out of this? This is your first time coming.
Really, as a people, that have accountability, hold each other up the standards.
Okay, talk closer to him so I can say we can hear a little bit.
Like as a people, we gotta hold each other accountable and uplift each other.
And tell me who your name is too, because they don't know who you.
My name is Reth the Theorem.
Okay, alrighty. Okay, you said accountability, huh? Alrighty.
Yeah, I mean, we do need accountability. I agree with him, and we also need self-acceptance and acceptance of each other as well. So people don't even want to be themselves because they feel like they'll be rejected. Cause them to do other things and even get into the streets or go act this way or go act that way, because that's the culture.
Yeah.
To thine own self be true.
To their own self, exactly.
I guess guess I would leave, in order for change to take place, you must change. You want to see change, you change. And when you change, others will benefit from that change.
And I just want to say, my final thoughts is that the subject matter was about churches, and I want to emphasize on what I mean by churches. I want to make sure we understand that each one of us are a church. We are the build. We are the institution of that, of what God has governed or instituted out to us to govern ourselves accordingly to deal with each other. And when we violate those laws that we are supposed to be governed to, then we upset the laws of God, the Most High. Nature is one of our greatest aspects of learning from. We can look at nature and learn a lot. And nothing kills unless it has to. And nothing goes against law. Everything is governed by law. All things. The sun, it comes up because by law it has to come up at a certain time. It has to go down at a certain time. The moon comes up when it's governed to come up. Nothing goes against law but us. We're the only disobedient creatures because we believe we have free will. Free will is not something we just play with. It's something that we should understand. Yeah, you have the will to forgive. You have the will to live accordingly. You have the will to love. You have the will to breathe, to eat. Those are all wills. To love unconditionally. That's a will. And when you give up on your will, you gave up on the laws of God. You can't say you love God and then don't want to operate in His will. Because the Ten Commandments just told us what all we need to do to show what we believe in. If we say we believe, and so I just want to say that by with we, us, and ours, we as a people, us as a whole, have to deal with our own circumstances. We can't keep reaching out for someone else to help us. We got enough money. If we sacrifice some things that we can't. Maybe you can't drink today. Maybe you can't smoke no weed today. Maybe you can't go to the club. Take that little money you got right there and add it to the cause. We got politicians that's running for office. We need to take that money and pay for our agenda. That's what the money. That's how we take control. That's what we can do. What we can't do is what we're doing right now. We can't keep affording to do the things we've been doing, because that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Mm-hmm. It's like drinking poison and trying to wait and see someone else die. So we got to change. We got to change our mindset. So, but love, life, loyalty, we, us, and ours.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but the